So let's look at the installation of the electronics pack, which contains a separate receiver and servos. The receiver itself actually has an onboard speed controller, so it is still quite a neat setup, but of course we have the independent servos, and we also have within the pack that you'll get if you've taken this option is the instructions showing you how to set it up, how to get it going. Now this one is the SR3X version. You don't necessarily have to use the SR3X version, but it does mean that you can fly them in conditions that you wouldn't normally expect to be able to for a micro model. You get a couple of the sticky pads in there. You will actually only need to use probably half of one, but you've got extras and spares there. Let's get the receiver out. So there it is. Just hold that up, you can see how diddy it is. You've got the antenna there. You've got 4 ports there for servos, and you've also got your motor connector there and the battery lead. So it's a really neat little operation there. So on the instructions that you'll receive with the, which I just packed up, I think, it actually gives you a map of what those parts, the ports are. So it shows you the orientation of the board, and then you've got aileron, rudder, elevator, and your M-bus as well, that's the interface port for the PGO2 tool, the interface tool, which is that thing there, which you may well have purchased with your kit. If you haven't, then we do them on our website for a small amount of money, and that allows you to plug this receiver into your computer to set up. That's actually on a separate video to this. We're going to concentrate on actually just getting this into the aircraft. You can set this up whilst it's installed in the aircraft. You can set it up beforehand. What I do suggest though is that you plug and bind this to your receiver before it's installed into the aircraft, just to make sure that it all actually works okay. In fact, I probably recommend that you, on receiving the kit, plug all of the electronics in independently of the aircraft itself, just to make sure everything is working okay. And then if there is an issue, we can sort it out for you whilst you're building the aircraft, so it doesn't delay too much on the build and getting it in the air. So, right, where should we start first? Well, I think probably the best thing for us to do before we start installing our parts is that we actually are going to remove the control rods, just to get them out of the way, clear the space, so that it's easier to install. So there we go, that was easy. And we're also going to get the aileron wire out of the connecting wire, servo wire, whatever you want to call it, out of the way whilst we do this too. So this gives us a nice space, uncomplicated wires or wires. Right, servos. These are very small 1.7 gram servos, but they do have a bit of a punch. So once again, hook these up, make sure they're centered before you actually install them in the aircraft. They should be. They should naturally be supplied at the center point of operation, but it's worth checking so that you don't have to make too many adjustments when it comes to setting the aircraft up. So we're going to use this for our elevator servo. So that sits on the this side here, the starboard side of the aircraft. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to, you notice the shape of the cavity that we've got here. This you should have cut out of this particular part already, but if you haven't, then the score lines are there, and you can literally just go around with your knife and cut these parts out as required, just whilst this D9 is in situ. Excuse me. So I'm just going to take the wire and tuck it into the hole before we install the servo. So I'm just going to essentially hide most of the wire away underneath the servo in the space underneath it, and I'm just going to pull it to one side. You may notice with the cutout we've got a little notch cut out, and that's basically to house the wire. Now the servo should just quite neatly drop into that hole there. There should be a little bit of friction, but it shouldn't be too much, and then that should literally just sit there. Now you can actually secure that if you want with a little bit of glue, but the foam does a very good job of keeping everything gripped like so. Just wanted to check something before we do. So all I'm doing is I just couldn't remember whether we have the rotary arm sitting further back in the aircraft or bring it forward. And I'm just having a look where this is all going to sit. We shouldn't get any interference like that. Yeah, it's probably better, as I said, having the arm of the servo, where you can see the little white protrusion at the moment, sitting furthest back in the aircraft itself. So if you wanted to glue these in, where you would possibly just pop the screws, just bring this up here. So where you possibly pop screws, so that little hole there, and the little hole at the back there, you could put a dab of the foam to foam, or you could, if it wasn't clogged. So I'm just going to put a little dab there, a little dab back there too, and that can sit there and dry off over a period of time. Just probably going to, that's going to just go through the hole there and act as a little bit of a screw sort of attachment. But obviously, if we need to get the servo out to do some maintenance of it or replace it, then all we have to do is just drop a little bit of the lighter fluid on those points there, and it should detach fairly easily from the aircraft. Okay, so we'll put the other servo in exactly the same manner. This is the rudder servo, I believe. Yep. Rudder is right. You'll notice these servos come with these little baggies of various servo arms. We're only going to be using the one here, but obviously save the bags because you might want to use the servos in other things at a later stage. Right, so let's just tuck the cable down in, like so. There we go. And you notice I've just left some fairly small tails on the servos themselves, but you can, with that notch there, you can push them back in, or you can pull some more out should it be required. So just going to tweezer in. There we go. Because these don't have far to go. And once again, I'll just put a little blob of glue in there. Go. So you will notice that I've actually reattached our control rods. Literally put them back into the aircraft and brought them to the place where they will be connected to the servos. And as you can see, obviously we've got the Z bends at the forefront of those control rods, and what we're going to do with our servo arms, these are the servo arms we're going to be using. They're the simplest ones with the two holes, the one arm, two holes. We're going to install them onto the Z bend first on the control rod, and then pop them onto the servo, and then there's a securing screw that goes in the top. It's tiny, and I'm leaving them in the bag for now because if they go onto the surface here, they'll probably get swiped off the board. Me thinking that they're just a bit of debris, so we're leaving them there for now. As you can see, though, the wires, the control wires, come much further forward than the location of the servo. So the servo arms will be coming out into the fuselage like so and like so, and obviously we need our wires to be there, sort of the Z bend to be there or thereabouts, to allow them to hook up, and the tail feathers to be set at neutral. So we need to push these back into the carbon fibre rods. So we'll just do that now. So that's elevator. So that's around about the neutral position there. And with rudder, it's just so that's around about neutral there as well. So we won't secure them in position just yet. We will get our servo arms connected, and we can make final adjustments before adding a little bit of CA glue to the carbon fibre, so that it secures everything in place. So now this is a little bit fiddly, but I think you know how it goes. You thread the hole over the Z bend, then my thumbs are getting in the way here, so I'm going to switch to tweezers. and then we pop servo arm onto the servo and just push it down into place. It should. It's usually quite a tight fit, but it creak down into place. There we go. So that's nicely in place now. And we're doing this and the other one before we put the receiver in, because then we can locate the receiver so it doesn't interfere with our servos. So we'll do the other servo as well. So these servo arms being nylon, they're quite slippery. Go. So those are on. It's almost not necessary to to put screws in there, but we will anyway. The fit is very tight, but you never know, and you don't want it failing whilst this is in the air. Right, let me go and get my screwdriver. Is it here? Oh yes, it is. There we go. And we shall. Let's hope it's a magnetic screwdriver, and I can just pop this tiny little. So that's the little offending beastie there. See if it'll stick to the end. So got it on the end of the screwdriver. Is it going to fall off? No! Excellent. Ah. Try the other one. Oh. So maybe these aren't as far down on the... Oh, definitely as far down as they should go. Nope. Well, we'll leave it as it is then. If you can get the retaining screws in, do let me know. Now the receiver is going to sit between the two, like so, and obviously connect up to the motor itself. I'm going to put this into place and secure it with some of our sticky tape, but of course we don't need a great deal. And in fact, I'm going to make sure that this area here, this bit at the top here, especially that little chip there, is left uncovered, because that's part of the electronic speed controller system, which can get quite hot during operation. So not covering it with a pad of foam is probably a good idea. So let's see how much we need. So I'll just cut off strip like so. That should certainly be enough width-wise. Then put a nick in there so I know where I'm cutting. I wouldn't cut straight across because I'd probably end up cutting the antenna off. There we go. Just pop that on, avoiding the areas I mentioned. There we go. So we've got our cable through here. So I just bashed my tail on the monitor. Not a good idea. Right, so let's just make sure we can put this into the position we need it. Okay, so at the moment it's not actually going to go into the position we need because our servo arms are in the way. I could try and angle it through them, but I don't think that's going to work either. So what I'm going to do, glad I didn't screw them on, is I'm just going to take them off temporarily. I think I'll probably need a little more oomph. So I'll completely remove them so they don't fall into the fuselage itself, never to be seen again. That nearly happened. There we go. Nope. Now you can see why it's easier to do and use an all-in-one board. But I think the benefits of the separate system are pretty good. So there, we're going to bring it to around about there. So quite a lot of the board has gone underneath. I'm just going to, not happy where the power cable is lying, so I don't want it lying across the motor connector. So I'm just going to bring that over the other side, so it's sitting alongside the motor connector, like so. It should go under the plywood. There we go. So that's really nice fit now. So let us just peel off our sticky protector. The tweezer's gone. There. There we go. So that's around about the place that I wanted it to sit. There's not going to be any interference for the servos either, so that's great. What we can do, whilst we're thinking about servos, is we can put our little servo arms back on. Receiver installed, our arms back on, servo arms, and our elevator and rudder hooked up. We can now finalize the position of our control rods. So we've got elevator, which is slightly elevated at the moment, so we're going to shorten that slightly just by pushing the carbon fibre rod in a little, and maybe a little bit too far, so just pull it out a little bit. So that's looking much more neutral now, and then same goes for the rudder. So at the moment it needs to just push in a little. So that looks more neutral now. Maybe a little bit too far, so let's just, there we go. And now we can put a little blob of our CA glue onto the junction of the carbon fibre and the control wire. This should then lock this in place. So we'll do that on both of them. Looks like I've almost stuck the aerial to it as well, so I'll just move that away. Just make sure the glue is where it's supposed to be to lock those in place. Fantastic. Now we can start connecting up our servos. So we've got the rudder, is it? Elevator. Elevator servo is the one over here. If you wanted to be super neat, you could actually, within the SR3X software, you can change all of these ports around so that you could actually have the servo over here and that servo connected to that one there, so you'd have a very short run. So let's just pop that in there. This goes over the other side, like so. And then the aileron, which can come through tweezers. There we go. It can come through the hole in the front there. That can go into the aileron port at the front. There we go. So as you can see, it's a little less neat than the all-in-one solution, and it does take a little more fiddle to get into place. But once it's there, hopefully it'll perform really well. Now I'm going to tuck some of these cables back down into their respective holes, so that obviously when the hatch goes on, it's not going to impact on those cables. So you can see I've actually knocked those cables down so they're nice and low in the actual area itself, and we've got our battery connector to connect up when it comes to flying. So that's pretty much all that needs to be done. All that needs to be done for the separate system, for the brushless electronics pack.